Gold-leafed balconies teeter over a sea of nobles. The air vibrates with the symphony of the sun. Suddenly, the music curdles. The lead violinist opens her mouth, but only a hollow gray mist escapes. Her violin shatters into silent dust. Lyra Belacqua drops her repair kit, her own chest aching with a sympathetic, forbidden vibration.
No, not here. The resonance is collapsing.
Standing in the royal box, Prince Kalen Solmeyer grips the railing. He watches the conductor's baton snap, but to him, the resulting explosion of light is eerily muffled.
I can't hear the warning bells. Is it the curse, or is the world finally dying?
High on the podium, Seraphina Vane desperately tries to weave the stray notes back together. Her eyes are wide with the terror of losing control.
Keep the rhythm. If we lose the tempo, the tower falls. Focus on the sheet music, not the void.
In the back alleys below the stage, Thorn Ashlock leans against a drum made of dark iron, watching the golden light flicker.
Let it fall. Let them see what happens when you build a kingdom on songs they stole from the rest of us.
The silence ripples outward like a physical wave, turning the golden lanterns to cold lead. Choose your character. Lyra Belacqua, a gifted instrument tuner, hiding a broken resonance that allows her to hear what others cannot. Kalen Solmeyer, the silver-eyed prince, who fears his growing deafness is the harbinger of the kingdom's end. Seraphina Vane, the perfectionist royal conductor whose obsession with musical law blinds her to the truth of the silence. Thorn Ashlock, a cynical percussionist from the slums who believes that quieting is a deserved judgment on the elite. Director guide the story from behind the scenes, without playing a character. The air in Aurelia doesn't just carry sound, it glows with it. High above the cobblestone streets, the opera tower breathes a rhythmic golden light that pulses in time with the symphony of the sun. Lyra Belacqua stands on a maintenance catwalk, her fingers stained with silver solder and grease. Below her, the Royal Orchestra prepares for the Solstice Gala. She ignores the finery, her eyes fixed on the structural resonators, humming along the white stone walls.
Bridge tension is peaking at 440 Hz. If the lead violinist pushes the crescendo any harder, the harmonic damper in balcony 4 is going to shatter like cheap glass.
Precision is not a suggestion, Arcanist Belacqua. It is the law. Ensure the resonance is pure.
Purity won't stop a structural collapse if the tempo keeps accelerandoing past safety specs, conductor. But fine. I'll tighten the overtone intake.
Lyra taps a brass tuning fork against the catwalk rail. The vibration she feels isn't clean. There's a discordant, muddy thrum deep within the tower's foundation. She shivers, masking it with a sharp adjustment to a nearby valve. In the royal box, Prince Kalen Solmeyer sits perfectly still. To the crowd, he looks like a statue of silver and silk. But Lyra, watching from her high vantage point, sees his hands gripping the velvet railing until his knuckles turn white. He isn't watching the stage, he's watching the conductor's baton with a desperate, hungry focus. The lead violinist strikes the high E. It should be a moment of transcendence. Instead, the note cracks. The sound doesn't just stop, it is extinguished. The golden lanterns flicker into a sickly, silent gray. The violinist's bow continues to move, but her instrument has turned to dull wood. She opens her mouth to scream, and only a hollow, breathless void emerges. Next on Lunareth, the dying song, The Shattered Note. The symphony of the sun stalls, the opera tower groans, its white stone weeping gray ash, as the magic holding it aloft begins to fail. The silence is absolute. It isn't just the absence of noise, it is a weight, a physical pressure that threatens to crush the breath out of everyone in the hall. Lyra watches in horror as the golden light vanishes from the instruments, leaving them cold and dead. The grand performance has collapsed into a terrifying silence. As the director, how do you wish to proceed? Focus on the chaos. Direct the scene to show the panic of the elite as the tower begins to physically crumble without its harmonic support. Focus on the secret. Have Lyra notice Kaelin's reaction, the only person in the room who doesn't look surprised by the silence. Introduce the threat. Reveal that the silence is physically manifesting as a shadow creeping across the stage, devouring the fallen instruments. Shift pacing, fast forward to the morning after the disaster, showing Lyra being summoned to the palace for an emergency commission. The silence is a physical blow, a sudden vacuum that sucks the warmth from the air. Below the catwalk, the elite of Aurelia are a sea of frantic motion, mouths stretched wide in screams that produce no sound, hands clutching throats as if trying to squeeze a single vibration back into existence. Lyra grips the brass railing, her heart hammering, a frantic, solo rhythm in the soundless void. The structural resonators began to bleed gray smoke, the white stone of the tower losing its luster.
It's not a mechanical failure. The resonance didn't just drift. It was erased.
She scans the royal box, expecting to see the queen in hysterics or the king demanding answers. Instead, her eyes lock onto Prince Kaelin. While the conductor stands frozen and the choir scrambles in a mute panic, Kaelin Solmeyer hasn't moved. He remains seated, his silver eyes fixed on the empty space where the music used to be. There is no shock on his face, only a profound, weary resignation. He looks like a man who has been waiting for the floor to drop away for a very long time.
He knew.
Lyra's own internal hum, the discordance she spent a lifetime hiding, flares up. It's the only sound she can hear, a low buzzing vibration in the marrow of her bones that seems to harmonize with the very silence that is killing the room. Across the distance, as if sensing a frequency no one else can feel, Kaelin turns his head. He looks up, past the falling ash and the flickering lanterns, straight at the maintenance catwalk. His gaze finds Lyra. For a heartbeat, the Prince of the Sun and the arcanist of the shadows share a single terrifying truth.
It's here.
The catwalk beneath Lyra groans. Without the harmonic support of the symphony, the metal begins to buckle.
To the exits! Move!
Seraphina's commands are visible only in the sharp rhythmic snap of her baton, which she still holds like a weapon. Even though its magic has died, she looks up and sees Lyra dangling above the precipice. Lyra doesn't look at the exit. She looks at her repair kit, then back at the prince, who is now being ushered away by his silent guard. The silence has claimed the tower, and a dangerous secret has been glimpsed between an arcanist and a prince. As the director, how do you wish to shape the immediate aftermath of this collapse? Director's choice, the narrow escape. Have the catwalk collapse, forcing Kaelin to break protocol, and personally intervene to save Lyra as they flee the falling debris. Director's choice, the forbidden resonance. Have Lyra attempt to use her broken internal hum to create a temporary path of sound, revealing her secret power to Seraphina Vane. Director's choice, the hidden message. As Kaelin is ushered away, have him leave behind a physical clue, a silenced tuning fork or a scrap of musical notation that only Lyra's technical eyes would recognize as a map. The tower shudders again, a deep, tectonic ache that vibrates through the soles of Lyra's boots. The golden symphony of the sun has been replaced by the sound of grinding stone and the frantic, silent footfalls of the fleeing nobility.
If the keystone frequencies don't reset in 3 minutes, this entire spire becomes a tomb.
She swings down from the buckling catwalk, her boots hitting the marble floor of the royal tier just as the prince's guard pushes through the heavy oak doors. Kaelin is in the center of the phalanx, his face a mask of regal indifference, but his hand lingers on the edge of a velvet drap table. As the guards pivot, Kaelin's fingers flick. A small, slender object skitters across the polished floor, sliding into the shadow of a fallen lantern. Lyra doesn't hesitate. She dives for it, her fingers closing over cold, blackened metal just as Seraphina Vane strides past, her heels clicking on stone that no longer sings.
Belacqua, why are you still here? The structural integrity is void. Out, before the law demands your life as well as your silence.
Just retrieving my property, Conductor. A tuner's kit is worth more than a year's wages.
Seraphina doesn't look back. She is already orchestrating the evacuation with the cold efficiency of a metronome. Lyra retreats into the alcove, opening her palm. It isn't a standard tool. It is a royal tuning fork, forged from star silver, but it has been struck so hard the tines are bent into an impossible jagged angle.
This wasn't dropped. It was planted.
She holds the fork up to the flickering emergency light. The bends in the metal aren't random. They mirror the specific topography of the Velmora woods, the shifting, dangerous borderlands where sound is said to go to die. Etched into the base of the handle, where only a resonator's magnifying glass could see, is a single frequency stamped in royal ink, 110 Hertz.
The Great Silence's foundation frequency. He's not just losing his hearing, he's tracking the source.
Outside, the first of the opera tower's external buttresses shears off, falling into the mists below. The world of Aurelia is suddenly very quiet and very, very dangerous. The director must now decide how the broken world of the setup phase manifests around Lyra as she realizes she holds the prince's secret. The investigation transition to Lyra's workshop, focus on her decoding the frequency, while the city outside descends into a silent martial law enforced by Seraphina. The confrontation, have Lyra intercept Kaelin in the palace gardens before he is moved to a more secure location, forcing an immediate alliance. The catalyst leak introduce a third party, a shadow listener, who saw Kaelin drop the fork and is now hunting Lyra through the crumbling tower. The physical toll, focus on the environmental shift. The silence begins to physically manifest as a gray rot on Lyra's own mechanical tools, adding a ticking clock to the mystery. The golden city of Aurelia is no longer glowing. It's bruising. A heavy indigo dusk has swallowed the Solmire Palace, and the air feels thick, like cotton wool pressed against the ears. The usual evening birdsong has been replaced by a suffocating hollow ringing. Lyra slips through a narrow opening in the ivy-covered stone wall, her shadow disappearing among the obsidian-leaf trees. She knows the layout of the palace pipes and resonance wells better than the royal architects. Ahead, a solitary figure stands by the fountain of the Singing Swan. The water still flows, but it falls into the basin with a muted, ghostly thud instead of its famed crystal chime. Prince Kaelin Solmire is alone for a fleeting second, his guards distracted by the chaos of the tower's evacuation. He is clutching his ears, his shoulders hunched.
It's a bit late for a stroll, isn't it, Highness? especially when the rest of the world is screaming in mime.
Kaelin flinches, spinning around. His eyes are wide, searching her face with a frantic, scanning intensity. He doesn't respond immediately. His focus is entirely on her lips.
You, the arcanist from the catwalk. You should be halfway to the lower city by now.
I would be if you hadn't left your property behind.
She pulls the blackened, bent tuning fork from her belt. The star silver catches the dim light of the dying lanterns. She holds it up, tracing the jagged tines that map the Velmora woods.
This is a map of a grave, Kaelin. The 110 Hz frequency, that's the basement of the world. Why are you measuring the depth of the silence?
Kaelin steps closer, the silver in his eyes looking tarnished. He speaks softly, his voice lacking the confident modulation of a royal.
Because it's the only thing I can still hear.
The admission hangs in the air, heavier than the physical silence, drug-induced.
Every morning, another octave vanishes. The violins went months ago. The voices of the choir are fading into a hiss. But that low, hungry thrum in the woods, it's getting louder.
You're fading, the royal curse.
I am the heir to Aurelia. I am not fading. I am finding the source. If the conductor finds out, she'll declare the bloodline dissonant. They'll lock me in the silent cell until my heart stops.
Then we're both in trouble, because I can hear a hum in my own bones that makes the palace law sound like a chalkboard scratch.
She steps into his space, forcing him to look at the fork.
I can tune the world back into place, but I need a conductor who knows where the baton went. You have the map, I have the hands to fix the rhythm.
Kaelin looks at her grease-stained fingers, then back at the jagged silver.
The guards will be back in minutes. They're moving me to the vaults. If I go in there, I'm never coming out.
Then don't go in.
The director must decide how this forbidden alliance officially seals its pact before the guards return. The royal escape, have Lyra lead Kaelin through the forbidden undersong tunnels beneath the palace, bypassing the guards entirely. The stolen vow, Kaelin gives Lyra a piece of the royal seal, a magical item that grants them passage through the golden gates, but marks them both as thieves. The interruption, Seraphina Vane discovers them. The director must decide if they talk their way out or are forced to flee into the silence immediately. The musical bond, Lyra attempts to tune Kaelin's senses momentarily using her own discordance, creating a psychic link between them.
Then don't go in. Follow me. If we use the main gates, we're as loud as a drum solo in an empty hall. We're going through the undersong.
Lyra kicks aside a heavy decorative urn near the base of the singing swan fountain. Beneath it lies a rusted iron grate, pulsating with a rhythmic, low-frequency hum.
The undersong? Those tunnels haven't been charted since the first harmony. The conductor says they are unstable.
Unstable is just what the law calls anything it can't keep in 4 quarters time.
She pries the grate open with a heavy wrench from her kit. A damp, metallic air wafts up, smelling of copper and ancient stone.
Mind your head, Highness. The ceiling height was built for arcanists, not crowns.
They drop into a world of echoing drips and brass pipes. The walls are lined with massive, bell-shaped acoustic relays, now choked with gray ash and silence webs. Lyra leads the way, her fingers tracing the pipes. She doesn't need a light. She follows the vibration.
I can feel it. The pipes. They aren't just carrying water.
They're the palace's vocal cords. Or they were. Right now, they're just hollow.
Kaelin stops, his hand pressing against a vibrating brass conduit. his silver eyes narrow, reflecting the dim glow of the star-silver tuning fork Lyra still carries.
Something is wrong. The rhythm in the middle, it's accelerating. It's not a song anymore. It's a countdown.
Above them, a muffled, distant sound vibrates through the stone, the start of the lunar festival's great chant. Thousands of voices joining in a single note. Suddenly, the note screams. A high-pitched, glass-shattering frequency tears through the tunnels. Pipes burst, spraying steam that carries no sound.
The great chant. It's being hijacked.
A wave of gray, shimmering air, the quieting, surges through the tunnel like a physical tide. Metal turns to crumbling ash where it touches.
Lyra, look at the relay.
The massive acoustic bell begins to glow with a sickly void black light, sucking the memory of sound right out of the air. Lyra feels a sudden, terrifying emptiness in her chest. For a second, she forgets the melody of her mother's favorite lullaby.
We have to move. Now. If that wave hits us, we won't just be deaf. We'll be empty.
Next, on Lunareth, the dying song, the void chorus.